troubled secrets, hidden crimes, and cover-ups so deep that even Hollywood's brightest smiles couldn't hide them. These are the scandals studios desperately tried to erase from history. From untimely deaths shrouded in mystery to starlet affairs buried under mountains of hush money, old Hollywood wasn't always as golden as its silver screen. Power brokers and fixers worked behind closed doors, spinning stories and silencing victims to keep the cameras rolling and the cash flowing. Here are the 19 largest scandals that old Hollywood tried to hide. Tales of ambition and desperation that refused to stay buried. Rosco Fatty Arbuckle's 1921 trial. Rosco Fatty Arbuckle was once America's most celebrated comic actor. His reputation was shattered when actress Virginia Rappe died after a party he hosted in San Francisco. What began as a routine Prohibition era gathering swiftly turned into a sensational media spectacle. Arbuckle, renowned for his buoyant screen presence and larger-than-life charm, was charged with rape and manslaughter. Triggering 3 high-profile trials, newspapers ran wild with shocking headlines, and moral critics called Hollywood a place of sin and corruption. Studios panicked, cut ties with Arbuckle, and erased his name from contracts. Even though a jury found him not guilty and apologized, his career was over. The scandal was so huge it pushed Hollywood to create rules and watchdogs to keep future disasters under control. Arbuckle's downfall didn't just ruin a career, it shook the entire young industry, teaching movie executives that unchecked celebrity behavior could threaten their burgeoning empire's very existence. The unsolved murder of William Desmond Taylor. Morning light on February 2, 1922, revealed a grim scene. Director William Desmond Taylor lay dead from a gunshot wound in his own bungalow, his body slumped behind velvet curtains. Panic spread through Hollywood's upper circles as studio executives rushed to control the damage. Rumors swirled that top actresses Mabel Normand, Mary Miles Minter, even Clara Bow had ties to Taylor's last hours. Before the police arrived, studio fixers searched Taylor's private papers, taking letters and diaries that might reveal secret affairs or hidden meetings. The police investigation led nowhere. No one was charged as witnesses went silent or disappeared. Tabloids thrived on half-truths and hints, portraying the director's death as proof of a corrupt film world. Censorship boards and early film guilds tightened rules in response to the scandal. Minter's obsessive letters to Taylor became gossip fodder, and Normand's strange public actions only increased suspicion. Studio heads quietly decided to never mention the case again, sealing off backlot areas and telling staff to stay out of it. Over a century later, the Taylor mystery remains, showing how early Hollywood used lavish distractions to hide scandal. It became the industry's first true ghost story, whispered in studio corridors and set against the marble of silent-era mansions. Wallace Reed's secret addiction. By 1919, Wallace Reed was Hollywood's golden boy, tall, fit, and full of charm. The Giants, a serious on-set crash, left him in pain. The studio doctors gave him morphine for relief, calling it needed treatment, but soon he got addicted. His health kept getting worse, and fans started seeing the change. The studio said he just needed a break, but behind the scenes, his wife tried everything to save him. He died at 31, not from the accident, but from the drug meant to help. His death made Hollywood question how it cared for its stars. Reed's clean image faded. He looked weak and shaky around the studio. Reviews said his acting had lost energy, so Metro Pictures gave soft public updates, saying he just needed rest and healing. Behind the scenes, Reed's wife, actress and director Dorothy Davenport, begged others for help and paid for his stays at private clinics. Still, the loop of painkillers and withdrawals didn't stop until Reed's body couldn't take it anymore. He died from the same drugs meant to ease his pain, passing away at just 31. His death rocked Hollywood, showing a hidden world where money mattered more than health. Davenport used her pain to make Human Wreckage, a film warning about drug addiction. Studios quietly changed their rules for medical care on set and watched doctors more closely. But Reed's story stayed as a warning. The system that built stars also led them to ruin. For many in the industry, his death was a painful reminder that fame could cost more than any paycheck. the Thomas Ince Yacht Mystery. November 1924 promised glamour. Hollywood luminaries gathered for a weekend aboard William Randolph Hearst's yacht off the California coast. Producer Thomas Ince was among the guests. Yet, by the time the vessel docked, Ince was gravely ill. Official accounts blamed indigestion from a rich feast, but whispers of something far darker arose almost immediately. According to later memoirs, Hearst's bodyguards may have whisked Ince's papers into locked cabins before investigators arrived, and a Los Angeles Times report of a shooting, complete with a bombshell headline, was rumored to have been yanked from the morning edition. Within days, Ince's body was cremated, and the event was quietly scrubbed from newsreels. For decades, conspiracy theories flourished. An accidental shooting, a jealous rage aimed at Charlie Chaplin, or a botched cover-up orchestrated by Hollywood's most powerful titan. Whatever truly transpired, the Ince affair became the archetype of studio craftiness, proof that when blood and bullets threatened the business of movie magic, silver screens could be polished to a mirror shine before the public ever saw a blemish. Joan Crawford's buried past. Long before Lucille LeSueur reinvented herself as MGM's sleek, steely-eyed Joan Crawford, a secret murmured through Hollywood's underbelly. She had once starred in a clandestine stag film, Velvet Lips, when extortionists resurfaced in the late 1940s, threatening to blackmail her with the footage. MGM's notorious fixers leapt into action. Every known print was purchased and destroyed. Crawford herself delivered denials so emphatic they bordered on hysteria. Biographers later unearthed ledger entries showing the studio paid her brother a six-figure hush fee, money that Crawford quietly repaid, safeguarding her crafted persona. This episode underscored a fundamental paradox. Studios profited handsomely from an actress's image, yet punished any hint of impropriety. Crawford went on to win an Oscar and reign as one of the silver screen's most formidable presences, but the stain of whispered rumors lingered like a shadow. In Crawford's case, Hollywood didn't just conceal scandal, it obliterated the evidence, erasing an entire chapter of a superstar's youth to ensure that her legend began, for the public, only on their carpet. Paul Bern's dubious death. The autumn of 1932 arrived with tragedy at MGM's front door. Producer Paul Bern, newlywed to Jean Harlow, the Platinum Siren, was found dead from a gunshot in his sunlit Beverly Hills home. First responders were reportedly ushered off the premises by studio executives, who arrived ahead of the police, rearranging items and gathering papers. MGM spin doctors immediately framed the death as suicide provoked by impotence, presenting a cryptic note allegedly penned by Bern. Harlow was coached to present a heartbroken bride, and the public was told Bern had battled deep personal demons. But behind the surface of sadness was a different story. Bern's first wife, who'd been separated from him, drowned just days later, and quiet rumors of murder spread among people in the know. Decades later, critics would argue that MGM's swift cleanup, cremation within hours, tight-lipped funerals, shielded the studio's rising star more than it honored a fallen producer. The Bern affair remains a study in how Hollywood wielded power to change reality. Loretta Young's hidden motherhood. In 1935, Loretta Young suddenly disappeared from movie screens at the peak of her rising career. When she returned a year later with a baby in her arms, she told a graceful story of adoption that stopped people from asking questions. It was only 31 years later that Young finally admitted the truth. The baby was actually her own daughter, born from a secret relationship with Clark Gable during a film shoot. At the time, being pregnant without marriage was seen as unacceptable in Hollywood. MGM's publicity team created a fake story about adopting the child from Europe. They made up foster parents and fake delays in movie shooting. Publicist Howard Strickling got fan magazines to praise Young's motherly love, and no one questioned the adoption. But studio records showed big travel costs and secret payments, proving the lie cost more than normal publicity. Young's secret life showed how studios controlled personal details, teaching actors what to say, hiding the truth, and paying people to protect their stars' images, even if it meant changing their real lives. Patricia Douglas and MGM's stag party cover-up. She believed she was auditioning. Instead, Patricia Douglas, a talented young dancer, found herself at an MGM executive's stag party in 1937, where she was violently assaulted by a studio salesman. Her courageous decision to sue MGM triggered an immediate retaliation. Witnesses were bribed or threatened into silence. Douglas was viciously defamed as a promiscuous troublemaker, and her legal action was systematically delayed until it expired. MGM's iron grip on supply chain gossip ensured that trade papers never reprinted her testimony. Internally, memos show how studio heads weighed settlements against the risk of brand damage, but publicly they maintained that the company upheld the highest standards of decency. For years, Douglas's name was hardly mentioned in any history of Hollywood. Her story stayed hidden in old studio files. It was not until feminist writers and indie filmmakers found her court records in the late 1900s that the truth finally came out. Documentaries and studies then brought back Douglas's story, showing her as someone who stood up to powerful men. Her case changed how experts viewed Hollywood's past, showing that under the glamour was a system built to hide scandals that could hurt money or image. By sharing her story, today's historians respect her courage and remind us how secretive systems once helped big studios silence victims and why openness still matters today. Errol Flynns' underage trial. A famous action star on screen, Errol Flynn faced a very different kind of drama in 1943, when he was charged with the statutory rape of 2 teenage girls. Newspapers filled their pages with shocking stories about young girls and wild parties at his fancy home. Flynn's team put together a strong legal defense that painted him as a bold but harmless flirt, a story that matched his heroic movie roles. Crowds packed the courtroom, and Flynn's charm seemed to win over even the most doubtful jurors. When he was found not guilty on all charges, people started saying, "In like Flynn," and his movie career quickly picked up again. In private, studios paid people to stay quiet and told gossip writers to talk about fun topics instead. The case showed how Hollywood could turn a serious legal problem into a public victory, proving that fame, if used the right way, could erase charges that would ruin the lives of everyday people. Charlie Chaplin's political exile. By mid-century, Charlie Chaplin, the creator of The Little Tramp, found himself under siege from forces he had never courted. His marriage to an 18-year-old actress, paternity disputes resolved only by blood tests, and rumored pro-Soviet sympathies in the Red Scare era painted him as a moral and political pariah. In 1952, returning from a European trip, Chaplin was met by U.S. immigration officials who demanded reassurances of his moral and political loyalty. Refusing to be interrogated like a criminal for his art, he chose exile in Switzerland. American newspapers vilified him as a cultural traitor. Some critics accused him of abandoning his own country. For 2 decades, Chaplin's films were distributed in the U.S. only via special agreements, and his absence loomed over Hollywood's landscape. His banishment signified how an artist's creative legacy could be overshadowed by political paranoia, demonstrating that even the world's most celebrated comedians were vulnerable when the industry prioritized ideological conformity over artistic contribution. The Twilight Zone, the movie helicopter accident. What started as a normal night shoot for The Twilight Zone, the movie quickly turned into one of Hollywood's worst on-set disasters. Director John Landis planned a Vietnam War scene over a mountain reservoir in California, using a flying military helicopter to create a realistic battle look. On the night of July 23, 1982, actor Vic Morrow and child actors Micah Din Lei, age 7, and Renee Shin Yai Chen, age 6, stood on a low bamboo bridge. Nearby, explosive special effects went off dangerously close to the spinning blades of the helicopter. Within seconds, burning debris hit the tail of the aircraft, causing it to lose its control and fall on top of the actors. Morrow was decapitated by the rotor blades, and both children suffered deadly injuries that took their lives right away. Warner Brothers executives quietly launched an internal review, but publicly described the incident as an unfortunately unforeseeable accident. Meanwhile, records later revealed multiple safety violations, unlicensed minors working after curfew, inadequate hazard assessments for stunts, and failure to secure proper permits. OSHA levied fines against the production, But criminal charges against Landis and 4 crew members ended in acquittal, despite prosecutors' arguments that negligence led directly to the deaths. Behind closed doors, studio heads mandated sweeping revisions to on-set protocols, no pyrotechnics near aircraft, stringent child actor regulations, and formalized safety committees. Yet for years, the focus remained on the final edited footage, not the full horror of that night. Only through later documentaries and first-hand testimonies did the public learn how systemic corner-cutting and inadequate oversight converged to create a preventable, unspeakable calamity, one that reshaped Hollywood's approach to stunts and safety forever. Ingrid Bergmans' forbidden romance. In 1950, Ingrid Bergmans' on-screen grace as the star of Casablanca was eclipsed by headlines when she embarked on an affair with Italian director Roberto Rossellini, while both remained married to others. When Bergman's pregnancy became public, the American press unleashed furious denunciations. She was castigated on the Senate floor, her films boycotted by moral guardians, and fan clubs that once adored her turned their backs. Studios swiftly severed contracts, and columnists labeled her a fallen angel who had sullied Hollywood's image. Retreating to Europe, Bergman bore her child and starred in Rossellini's art house films, rebuilding her craft away from Tinseltown glare. It wasn't until 1956, after delivering a transcendent performance in Anastasia, that she returned to Hollywood triumphantly, winning her second Oscar. Still, her exile underscored a fierce double standard. Male stars often emerged from personal scandals unscathed, while women paid the steepest price. Bergman's story endures as a cautionary saga of how love collided with the studio system's rigid morality, forcing a legend into years of silent struggle before redemption. The Hollywood blacklist's silent victims. In the tense atmosphere of late 1940s America, Hollywood got caught up in the fear of communism. When the House Un-American Activities Committee called in film industry workers accused of having communist links, studios gave in and blacklisted around 325 writers, directors, and actors unless they agreed to loyalty checks. 10 men, later known as the Hollywood 10, refused to speak and were sent to jail for contempt, serving as a clear warning to others in the industry. Overnight comma careers evaporated. Dalton Trumbo penned screenplays under pseudonyms. Albert Maltz worked menial jobs to survive. Countless others faded into obscurity. Studios insisted these measures protected national security and preserved moral integrity, but in truth they prioritized studio-government relations over artistic freedom. Though a few blacklisted creatives eventually regained credit decades later, the era's chilling effect on storytelling and dissent left deep scars. Hollywood's willingness to weaponize fear revealed how political pressures could override even the loftiest ideals of expression and taught a grim lesson. In an industry built on illusion that true voices could be silenced with bureaucratic ease. Confidential magazine's tabloid revolution. Confidential's impact lasted long after the magazine ended. After that, studios saw that using legal action could not stop a growing press or a public hungry for behind-the-scenes drama. To fight back, Hollywood began supporting its own magazines. These glossy fan magazines mixed approved gossip with positive studio news. At the same time, well-known columnists like Hedda Hopper and Luella Parsons became more bold in their writing. They often traded big stories for special access, making it harder to tell news from publicity. A's Confidential's wild stories faded, and new outlets like Newsweek, People, and later Us Weekly took over. Hollywood found new ways to shape its image. These included planned leaks, celebrity-approved books, and private talks shared as personal interviews. Lawmakers and editors also acted, making rules to stop false stories and protect both stars and the public. Still, the magazine's influence remained strong. It broke Hollywood's tight grip on information and helped build today's celebrity news world, where fame and scandal are closely connected. Lana Turner's family tragedy. A bright movie sign once called Lana Turner Hollywood's top femme fatale, but in April 1958, real-life drama took over any film script. Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl Crane, stabbed and killed Johnny Stompanato, Turner's boyfriend and known mob figure, during a heated late-night fight in Turner's Beverly Hills home. Cheryl said she did it to protect her mother from harm. A quick coroner's inquest ruled the killing was justifiable homicide. But the public reaction that followed damaged Turner's carefully built image. Gossip writers spread rumors about her personal life, and studios rushed to calm worried fans and investors. Turner stayed in films, but her roles changed from seductive woman to caring mother, showing the mix of fame and pain that now followed her. The Stompanato case became a major moment. Studios could no longer hide private trouble when it turned into violence. Turner's story became tied to the night her daughter acted in fear, turning a movie star into a tragic figure, and showing that even the most glamorous lives could break under hidden abuse. George Reeves's mysterious death. Television Superman George Reeves was found dead from a gunshot in his Brentwood home on June 16, 1959. The coroner called it a probable suicide, but many people close to Reeves did not believe that. Confusing details from that night, no fingerprints on the gun, and reports of loud fights made it seem like something more serious. Reeves was said to be in a relationship with Toni Mannix, the wife of powerful MGM fixer Eddie Mannix, which made some people think the studio had something to do with it. Friends and family said Reeves felt stuck being known only as Superman. In the weeks before his death, he told people he was worried his career was over. His secretary later said Reeves got strange and scary phone calls. Police found a half-full glass of bourbon, but tests showed almost no alcohol in his body, which raised doubts about the scene. Early photos taken before the real investigation showed his body lying in a strange way, almost like it was arranged, making people think studio workers cleaned the room first. Reeves's sad family quietly hired a retired detective who noticed blood marks and bullet paths the police had missed. No one was ever blamed, and the case was closed, but fans kept asking questions as more people came forward. In 2009, the coroner updated the cause to undetermined, showing that the real answer may never be known. Marilyn Monroe's final overdose. On August 5, 1962, Marilyn Monroe's maid found her dead in the bedroom of her Brentwood home. An empty pill bottle was on the nightstand, and the phone was still in her hand. The Los Angeles County coroner called it a probable suicide, but the scene brought more questions than answers. No pills were found in her stomach, the windows were locked from the inside, and the bed was perfectly arranged. From the moment Monroe wore the famous white dress in The 7-Year Itch, she was trapped in Hollywood's world of beauty and desire. But that world could let her go at any time. Stories about President Kennedy, the Mafia, and the CIA started almost right away. In 1982, a district attorney reopened the case but agreed with the original report. Still, books and films keep looking at every detail of her life, her rising fears about delayed film roles, painful love affairs, and controlling studio deals. Her death showed how thin the line was between praise and pressure. Today, Monroe's story stands as a warning about fame's short life. She was a shining star across the world, but could not escape the sadness she hid inside. Roman Polanski's fleeing justice. In early 1977, an already tragic chapter in Roman Polanski's life took a new, disturbing turn. He was filmed in Jack Nicholson's Bel Air home, assaulting a 13-year-old girl he had plied with quaaludes and champagne. Charged with 6 felony counts, Polanski pleaded guilty to unlawful sexual intercourse with a minor as part of a plea bargain. However, on the eve of sentencing, his attorneys convinced him the judge would flout the deal and impose a prison term. Polanski fled to France, joining the long list of American expatriates, and effectively turning himself into cinema's most notorious fugitive. Back in Los Angeles, tabloids called out the director's betrayal of trust. But well-known figures like Nicholson and Spielberg still spoke up for his talent. Polanski's escape from the country started a strong debate. Could people still admire Chinatown or Rosemary's Baby while holding him responsible for his actions? More than 40 years later, the case still splits the film world. His missing presence at American award shows and his choice to avoid U.S. law show Hollywood's ongoing struggle between praising talent and asking for moral responsibility. Natalie Woods' reopened tragedy. The final moments of Natalie Woods' life played out under starlit skies off California's Catalina Island, but the truth has remained obscured by shifting accounts and official reticence. On November 29, 1981, during a late-night yacht excursion with husband Robert Wagner and co-star Christopher Walken, Woods slipped or was pushed overboard. The initial inquiry, hampered by poor lighting and delayed calls to the Coast Guard, concluded her death was an accident caused by alcohol and waves. Yet, as years passed, unreported witness statements surfaced, muffled cries for help, heated voices on deck, waterlogged footprints near the rail. In 2011, the LA County Sheriff's, the department reopened the case, citing credible new evidence, and quietly designated Wagner as a person of interest. The coroner's office amended the cause of death to drowning and other undetermined factors, hinting at possible foul play. Despite renewed investigations, no charges have been brought. Woods' demise remains a potent symbol of the tension between personal privacy and public fascination, a star claimed by mysterious circumstances that powerful figures once wished to consign to the deep. Thanks for watching. If these hidden tales of Hollywood's past blew your mind, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold stories from behind the scenes. Have you heard of another buried scandal that deserves the spotlight? Drop it in the comments. We're always digging for the truth. Until next time, keep your eyes on the screen and your mind on what lies beneath.